My family kicked me and my daughter out during Christmas dinner. You're embarrassing us, my sister snapped. You're not welcome here anymore, my mother added. My daughter started crying, holding my coat, asking what she did wrong. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just smiled and said, okay, then you won't mind me doing this. 5 minutes later, Christmas dinner was canceled, and suddenly they wanted us back. But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now let's dive into today's story. The windshield wipers scraped ice from the glass in uneven rhythms. Amelia Hale pressed the brake pedal gently, feeling the Subaru resist on the slick pavement before coming to rest against the curb. Through the passenger window, her parents' house stood exactly as it always had. White clapboard siding, black shutters, a porch that wrapped around the front like arms that had never quite learned to embrace. Briar Hollow, Vermont, looked like a postcard this time of year. Snow clung to every surface, softening the edges of the world. Church steeples rose above the bare maples. Smoke curled from chimneys. People waved to each other in the grocery store parking lot and remembered names going back 3 generations. They also remembered mistakes. Remembered which families were good stock and which weren't quite right. Remembered who owed what to whom, and they kept score. Amelia cut the engine. The heater's hum died, replaced by the muffled quiet of falling snow. In the back seat, Sophia unbuckled herself with the careful precision of a child who had learned early to do things right the first time. Her small hands clutched a gift bag decorated with crayon drawings, stars and trees, and what might have been a reindeer, though the antlers looked more like branches. Grandma's gonna like mine best, right? Sophia's voice carried the particular hopefulness children have before the world teaches them otherwise. Amelia turned in her seat. Her daughter's dark eyes, Daniel's eyes, watched her with absolute trust. 6 years old, and already she knew to check Amelia's face before deciding how to feel about something. Of course she will, Amelia said. The smile came easily now. She had been practicing it for 32 years. Inside the paper bag was a scarf Amelia had knit over the past 3 weeks. Dark blue wool, soft and warm, the kind of thing her mother would accept without comment and probably never wear. Amelia had stayed up past midnight most nights, fingers working the needles, while Sophia slept, because that was what you did. You showed up. You brought gifts. You performed the rituals of family, even when family had never quite performed them back. She helped Sophia out of the car, holding her hand as they navigated the icy walkway. The porch steps creaked under their weight. Wreaths hung on the door and windows, tied with red velvet ribbon, pulled so tight it puckered the greenery. Everything looked warm and welcoming from the outside. Amelia had learned a long time ago that looking welcoming and being welcoming were different things entirely. She knocked. 3 times, not too loud. Waited. The door opened, releasing a wave of warm air that smelled like roasting meat and cinnamon, butter, and something sweet baking. Her sister, Eliza, stood in the doorway, already holding a wine glass, even though it was barely 3 in the afternoon. She wore a red sweater that probably cost more than Amelia spent on groceries in a month. Oh, Eliza said. Just that. Oh, like Amelia was a package she'd forgotten she'd ordered. Merry Christmas, Amelia said. Eliza stepped back without quite stepping aside, forcing Amelia and Sophia to angle past her into the entryway. The house opened up into the living room on one side, dining room on the other, kitchen straight ahead. The television played in the living room, some football game with announcers shouting over crowd noise. Their father Walt sat in his recliner, remote in hand, not looking up. In the kitchen, their mother Janine stood at the island, arranging vegetables on a platter with the focused intensity she brought to everything. She glanced up. Her eyes landed on Amelia, then slid away. Amelia, she said. Not hello. Not Merry Christmas. Just her name, spoken like an item being checked off a list. Eliza's husband Connor emerged from the hallway, wiping his hands on his jeans. He nodded at Amelia, the bare minimum of acknowledgement, then went to stand beside his wife. They made a match set, both tall, both comfortable in their skin in a way Amelia had never managed to be in this house. Sophia pressed against Amelia's leg, suddenly shy. The little girl had met these people before, but not often. After Daniel died, Amelia had pulled back from family gatherings. The invitations had kept coming, each one feeling less like an invitation and more like a summons. "Hi, Grandma," Sophia said quietly. I made you something." Janine looked at her granddaughter for a long moment. "That's nice, sweetheart. Put it under the tree." Sophia carried her gift bag into the living room. Amelia watched her place it carefully among the other presents, most of them wrapped in matching paper with perfect bows. Her daughter's crayon-decorated bag looked homemade in a way that felt suddenly embarrassing. Amelia shed her coat, hung it on the rack by the door. Underneath, she wore a simple navy sweater and dark jeans. Nothing fancy. She'd stopped trying to compete with Eliza's wardrobe years ago. "Can I get you something to drink?" Janine asked, the question directed somewhere past Amelia's left shoulder. "Water's fine. Thank you." Eliza laughed, a bright, artificial sound. "Water? Of course." She took a long sip of her wine. "We're having Pinot. Connor brought 3 bottles from that vineyard upstate. The one that just opened." "I'm driving," Amelia said. "You just got here." "I know." The silence stretched. On the television, someone scored a touchdown. Walt grunted approval. Amelia had been invisible in this house for as long as she could remember. When they were children, Eliza got dance lessons, tap jazz ballet. Amelia got told to be grateful she had a roof over her head. Eliza broke curfew and came home smelling like beer. Amelia stayed out 20 minutes past curfew once, helping an elderly neighbor carry groceries, and lost her allowance for a month. The ledger had never balanced. After a while, she'd stopped expecting it to. Then she'd met Daniel. Tall, quiet Daniel with the carpenter's hands and the slow smile. He'd seen her. Actually seen her. Not the version of her that existed to fulfill some role or obligation. They'd married at 23, moved to Plattsburgh where Daniel had work, started building something that felt like it belonged to them. But even then, the pull of family had persisted. Her parents needed help with the mortgage. Then the roof. Then the car. Medical bills. Property taxes. The requests came monthly, sometimes weekly. Daniel never complained. He'd grown up without family, bouncing between foster homes, so he didn't understand that family could be a weight instead of a gift. He just worked harder, took on extra jobs, and Amelia wrote the checks. 8 years of checks. Then the accident. 6 months ago. A construction site. A load that wasn't secured properly, and Daniel had been in the wrong place at the wrong second. The foreman called. The hospital called. By the time Amelia arrived, there was nothing to do but sign papers and try to explain to Sophia why Daddy wasn't coming home. The life insurance took weeks to process. The settlement from the construction company took longer. Lawyers, depositions, phone calls that blurred together. Through it all, Amelia kept functioning, kept Sophia fed and bathed and in school, kept the bills paid, kept moving forward because stopping would mean falling apart, and she couldn't afford that. The checks to her parents stopped. Janine had called 3 times in the first week. Then Connor called. Then Eliza. Each called the same message delivered with slightly different words. "We depended on that money. You can't just stop." Amelia had tried to explain. Tried to say that she was barely holding on, that the money was tied up in probate, that she had her own bills, her own child to think about. But the explanations fell on ears that had never quite learned to hear her. So she'd stopped explaining, and they'd stopped calling, until 2 weeks ago when Janine had left a voicemail. "You're still family. Christmas is at 3. Don't be late." Amelia poured herself a glass of water from the kitchen tap, the pipes groaning with the cold. Through the window above the sink, she could see the backyard, the same swing set from childhood, rusted now, half buried in snow. She'd spent hours on those swings, pumping her legs, trying to go high enough to disappear. Sophia came back from the living room and wrapped her arms around Amelia's waist. "When do we eat?" she whispered. "Soon, baby." Janine moved past them to check something in the oven. Heat poured out, carrying the smell of turkey and stuffing. "Dinner's almost ready. Eliza, can you set the table?" Eliza sighed, but complied, pulling plates from the cabinet with more noise than necessary. Connor helped, though his help consisted mostly of standing in the way and making jokes that no one laughed at. Amelia took Sophia's hand and guided her toward the dining room. The table was already set with a cream-colored cloth, red placemats, and a centerpiece of pine boughs and white candles. Janine approached holidays like military campaigns. Everything planned, everything in its place, no room for spontaneity or joy. They took their seats. Amelia helped Sophia into a chair, adjusting the booster cushion someone had pulled out from storage. Sophia's feet dangled, not quite reaching the floor. She folded her hands in her lap and waited, a small, serious figure in her green Christmas dress. Walt came in from the living room, moving slowly. He'd aged in the past year, more gray in his hair, more stoop in his shoulders. He sat at the head of the table without speaking, and they all waited until Janine brought the turkey out on a platter, Connor following with bowls of mashed potatoes and green beans and cranberry sauce. The food came out in stages, each dish placed with precision. No one spoke except to ask for things to be passed. Plates were filled. Grace was not said. The Hales had never been religious, just traditional. Amelia served Sophia small portions, cutting the turkey into careful pieces. She took some food for herself, though her appetite had disappeared the moment she'd walked through the door. Across the table, Eliza poured herself more wine. For several minutes, only the sounds of eating filled the room. Silverware against plates, ice shifting in glasses, the television still murmuring from the other room. Then Eliza cleared her throat. "So," she said, drawing the word out like she was savoring it. She glanced at Connor, who smirked into his napkin. "How are things going?" "Still figuring it all out, Ratch." She stopped herself, rolled her eyes. "Sorry, I mean Amelia." The name hung in the air. Rachel had been Amelia's middle name. For years, Eliza had refused to use her first name, claiming Rachel suited her better. Some kind of private joke that Amelia had never been included in. Even now, at 32 years old, sitting at this table, the mockery was casual and reflexive. Amelia cut a piece of turkey. "We're doing okay. Okay enough to stop helping Mom and Dad, apparently." Connor's voice carried that edge he got after a couple beers, equal parts aggressive and entitled. The temperature in the room shifted. Sophia looked up from her plate, confusion crossing her small face. Janine set her fork down. Not dropped, set. With precision. "We depended on that help, Amelia. You don't just decide to stop. Not without talking to us first." Amelia chewed, slowly swallowed. Her voice came out level, almost pleasant. "Daniel and I helped for 8 years. After he died, I couldn't anymore." Eliza leaned back in her chair, one arm draped over the back. "Funny how that works, though. He dies, you get a big payout from the insurance and the company, and suddenly you're too broke to help your own parents." Sophia's head turned toward her mother. "Mama." Amelia placed her hand over her daughter's, smaller one. The touch was gentle, reassuring. "It's all right, sweetheart. Keep eating." But Sophia had stopped eating. She sat very still, the way children do when they sense something wrong but don't understand what. Janine's lips pressed into a thin line. "This is embarrassing, Amelia. People ask questions. They see us struggling, and they know you have money now. What am I supposed to tell them?" "Tell them the truth," Amelia said. "The truth." Eliza laughed. "The truth is you got selfish the second Daniel wasn't around to keep you in line." Something cold settled in Amelia's chest. Not anger, not yet. Something colder than anger, harder and clearer. Connor nodded, playing along. Your sister's right. Honestly, showing up here like this, after months of nothing, it's uncomfortable. Amelia looked at him directly. Like what? What? Connor blinked. Uncomfortable like what? Eliza's eyes flicked toward Sophia, then back to Amelia. Like a reminder, she said quietly, of things we'd rather not think about on Christmas. The words settled into the room like stones dropping into still water. Silence. Walt turned up the volume on the television in the other room. The announcers shouted about fourth down. Janine stood, gathering her plate even though it was still half full. I think it's best if you leave now. I don't want this tension at my table. You're not welcome here anymore. Sophia's chair scraped backward. She stood so fast she nearly knocked her water glass over. Panic filled her face, confusion and hurt mixing together. She grabbed for Amelia's coat sleeve. What did I do? Her voice broke on the last word. What did I do wrong? Amelia's jaw tightened. Just once, a muscle jumping beneath her skin. Then she smiled. The smile was terrible in its calmness. Okay, Amelia said softly. Then you won't mind me doing this. She reached into her bag. The bag was canvas, dark blue, worn at the handles. She'd brought it in with her coat, set it by her chair without anyone paying attention. Now she pulled out a manila envelope, thick and heavy, the kind lawyers use for important documents. She laid it on the table between the cranberry sauce and the mashed potatoes. These were for you, she said. Connor frowned, reached for it. What is this? Open it. He did. The papers inside were crisp, official. Notarized stamps marked several pages. Connor's face changed as he read. Confusion, then comprehension, then something like shock. His mouth opened. Closed. You can't, he started. Eliza grabbed the papers from him. Her eyes scanned the first page, the second. She looked up at Amelia, at Janine, back to the documents. $500,000. Her voice climbed an octave. You were going to give us $500,000. The papers outlined it all in legal language. A gift irrevocable. Debts cleared. Connor's failing auto shop had been hemorrhaging money for 2 years, kept afloat only by loans he couldn't really afford. Janine and Walt's mortgage erased. 3 years of payments left wiped clean. Property taxes covered. The roof repair they'd been putting off. Medical bills from Walt's surgery last spring. Everything. All of it tied up in a neat package, waiting for signatures. Past tense now. Amelia reached across the table. She took the papers back from Eliza's shaking hands, and then very deliberately she tore them in half. The sound was surprisingly loud. Thick paper resisting, then giving way. She tore them again. Quarters now. Again. The pieces getting smaller. Janine made a sound, something between a gasp and a cry. Amelia, wait. But Amelia was already standing. She gathered the torn pieces, let them fall onto her plate like strange confetti. Then she lifted Sophia's coat from the back of her chair and wrapped it around her daughter's shoulders. Come on, sweetheart, she said. Her hands were steady. Her voice was calm. Sophia's eyes were huge, swimming with tears. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry, Mama. You have nothing to be sorry for. Amelia buttoned the coat, pulled the hood up. Nothing at all. Connor found his voice. You can't just, Amelia, be reasonable. We can talk about this. Amelia looked at him, really looked at him. We just did. Eliza stood, her chair toppling backward. This is insane. You're being dramatic. We had one argument. You called my daughter a reminder of things you'd rather forget. Amelia's voice hadn't changed. Still calm, still level, but something in it made Eliza step back. On Christmas, at a table where she's supposed to feel welcome, Janine's voice cracked. Amelia, please. Wait. We can. But Amelia was already moving toward the door, Sophia's hand in hers. Eliza followed them, wine sloshing in her glass. "You're making a huge mistake. That money, we need that money." Amelia opened the door. Cold air rushed in, bringing snow with it. She turned back one final time. Just her head, just enough to speak. "I know," she said. Then she stepped out into the snow and closed the door behind her. Outside, the wind had picked up. Snow fell heavier now, big flakes that stuck to their hair and shoulders. Amelia unlocked the car, helped Sophia into the back seat, buckled her in with careful precision. Her daughter's face was wet with tears. "Did I make them mad?" "No, baby, that wasn't you. But Grandma said—" "Grandma was wrong." Amelia touched Sophia's cheek. "Sometimes people are wrong, and it's not your job to fix it." She closed the back door, walked around to the driver's side, got in, started the engine. The windows fogged immediately. She turned on the defroster, wiped the condensation with her sleeve. Through the cleared glass, she could see the house. Movement behind the windows, figures gesturing, arguing. She put the car in drive. That night, Christmas dinner in the house on Juniper Ridge ended early. The turkey sat half-carved on its platter. Wine glasses left rings on the tablecloth. And in the middle of the table, among the serving dishes and the centerpiece, torn pieces of paper lay scattered like leaves that would never grow back into something whole. The house went quiet, and somewhere on the road heading south, Amelia Hale drove through the snow with her daughter asleep in the back seat, and for the first time in her life, she felt no weight at all. Act End 1. Amelia drove south on Route 7, the highway cutting through darkness and snow. Headlights caught the falling flakes, turning them into a tunnel of white. The radio played low, some classical station Sophia liked, strings and piano mixing with the hum of the tires. In the back seat, her daughter had cried for 20 minutes, then fallen asleep curled under a blanket Amelia kept in the car for emergencies. Her breathing was steady now. Occasional hitches, the only evidence of her earlier tears. Amelia's hand stayed at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel. Her eyes tracked the road, watching for ice, for deer, for anything that might require sudden action. The drive from Briar Hollow to Plattsburgh usually took 90 minutes. In this weather, it would take longer. She passed Lake Champlain, invisible now in the dark, but she knew it was there, vast and frozen and indifferent. A rest stop appeared in her headlights, mostly empty. Just a few trucks parked in the far lot. Amelia signaled, pulled in, parked under a light that buzzed and flickered. The engine ticked as it cooled. Snow accumulated on the windshield, blocking the view. Amelia sat very still. Then she allowed herself 1 minute. 60 seconds to feel everything she'd been holding back since the moment she'd torn those papers. Anger came first, hot and bright and righteous. Years of being second, years of being the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who showed up and helped and asked for nothing in return. Years of watching Eliza coast through life, making mistakes that other people cleaned up, receiving grace that Amelia had never been offered. Then grief. Daniel. God, Daniel. 6 months, and sometimes it still felt like he'd just stepped out of the room, like he'd be back any minute with that slow smile and those careful hands. Sophia asked about him less now. The questions had shifted from "when is Daddy coming home?" to "do you think Daddy can see us?" And Amelia didn't know how to answer that. She didn't believe in heaven or angels or any of the comforting lies people told children. She believed in the here and now. And in the here and now, Daniel was gone, and she was alone with a 6-year-old and a family that had never wanted her except for what she could provide. Finally, clarity. Amelia checked her watch. 60 seconds exactly. She wiped her face, pulled out her phone. Her parents' account was still linked to her bank's automatic payment system. Every month, like clockwork, $1,500 transferred to their checking. It had continued even after Daniel died. Even after she'd said she couldn't help anymore, because she'd forgotten to cancel it and they certainly hadn't reminded her. She opened the banking app, found the recurring payment, canceled it. 3 clicks. Done. Next, she opened the document folder where she kept her will. She'd updated it after Daniel died, changing the executor from him to her best friend Catherine, adjusting the guardian clause for Sophia. But the beneficiary section still included provisions for her parents if something happened to both her and Catherine. Sophia's trust would be overseen by family. Amelia deleted those provisions, typed new ones, saved the document. Tomorrow she'd call her lawyer, make it official. Tonight the intent was enough. She sat in the car and watched the snow fall. A semi-truck pulled into the rest stop, air brakes hissing. The driver got out, stretched, headed for the restrooms. The world kept moving. People kept living their lives, completely unaware that hers had just shifted on its axis. Amelia didn't react. She acted. There was a difference. When Sophia woke an hour later as they pulled into their driveway in Plattsburgh, she was groggy and confused. "Are we home?" "Yes, baby. We're home." Their house was small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that opened into a living room. Daniel had renovated most of it himself, putting in new floors and updating the electrical. His tools still sat in the basement, covered with dust now. Amelia kept meaning to sort through them, maybe sell them or donate them. But she couldn't quite bring herself to do it yet. She carried Sophia inside, the little girl's arms wrapped around her neck, put her to bed without changing her out of the dress, pulled the covers up, kissed her forehead. "Mama." "Yes." "Are we going to see Grandma and Grandpa again?" Amelia sat on the edge of the bed, in the hallway light spilling through the doorway. Sophia's face looked younger than 6, vulnerable in a way that made Amelia's chest ache. "I don't know, sweetheart. Did I do something bad?" "No." Amelia's voice was firm. "You did nothing wrong. Nothing at all. You were perfect." "Then why were they mad?" How do you explain to a child that some people are incapable of love? That some families are held together by obligation and guilt rather than affection? That being blood doesn't guarantee kindness? Sometimes, Amelia said carefully, people forget how to be grateful. And when they forget that, they blame other people for their own unhappiness. Sophia's eyes were closing. "I don't understand." "You don't need to. Just know that you are good and kind and loved. Always. I love you too, Mama." Amelia stayed until Sophia's breathing deepened into sleep. Then she went to her own room, changed into pajamas, and climbed into bed. Daniel's side was still empty. She'd washed the sheets a dozen times since he died, but sometimes she swore she could still smell him, sawdust and soap and something uniquely him. She didn't sleep for a long time. Instead, she lay in the dark and made plans. 3 days later, on a gray afternoon when the sky pressed low and threatening, Amelia sat at her kitchen table with her laptop open. Sophia was at school. The house was quiet except for the furnace kicking on and the occasional creak of settling wood. Facebook was open on her screen. She'd checked it that morning out of habit, scrolling through the usual mix of cat photos and recipe videos and people complaining about the weather. Then she'd seen it. A post from Eliza, published 20 minutes ago. "Some people profit off tragedy and forget family. Some people take the money and run while the rest of us struggle to keep our heads above water. I won't name names, but if you're reading this, you know who you are, and you should be ashamed." The comments had started immediately. Janine had been first. "Stay strong, honey. We know the truth." Then Connor. "Family is supposed to mean something." Then friends, acquaintances, people from Briar Hollow who probably didn't even know the full story but were happy to pile on. "Praying for you guys. Some people have no class. Money changes people and not always for the better." 23 comments in 20 minutes. 23 people ready to judge someone they'd never met, based on half a story from someone who'd never learned to tell the truth. Amelia read each comment, let them sink in. Then she opened a new tab. Her digital filing system was meticulous, a holdover from her years working as an administrative assistant before Sophia was born. Every document scanned, every receipt saved, every email archived. She navigated to the folder labeled Family and started pulling files. Bank statements showing 8 years of transfers. $1,500 a month, every month like clockwork. Sometimes more when emergencies came up. Emails from Janine. Thank you notes in the beginning, before gratitude had curdled into expectation. Then requests. Then demands. One from 3 years ago. The property tax bill is due next week. I know you said money's tight, but we're counting on you. Another from last year. Connor's business is going under. If we don't help him, he'll lose everything. Family helps family. Messages from after Daniel died. Dozens of them, increasingly frustrated. We still have bills, Amelia. This isn't fair. You're being selfish. And the coup de grace, a public Facebook post from Janine, dated 4 months ago. Some daughters forget where they came from. We raised her, fed her, gave her everything, and this is how she repays us? By abandoning us in our time of need? Very disappointing. Amelia had seen it at the time, had felt the sting of it, the public humiliation. Had wanted to respond but hadn't, because responding would mean engaging, and engaging would mean prolonging the pain. But now was different. She took screenshots, saved each one, then opened her own Facebook profile. Amelia rarely posted. Her profile was sparse, a few photos of Sophia, a picture from her and Daniel's last anniversary, nothing controversial or attention-seeking. Her friend list was small, mostly old colleagues, and a few people from high school she'd lost touch with. But Briar Hollow was a small town, and small towns had long memories and active gossip networks. Anything she posted would make its way back to her family within hours. She uploaded the screenshots, all of them, the bank transfers, the emails, the messages, laid them out in chronological order. A paper trail of 8 years of generosity met with ingratitude. Then she typed, her fingers steady on the keyboard. I buried my husband 6 months ago. I will not bury the truth. Posted. She closed the laptop, made lunch, did laundry, vacuumed the living room. When she picked Sophia up from school, her phone had blown up with notifications. 47 comments, 62 reactions, multiple messages from people she hadn't talked to in years. She silenced the phone without reading any of them. That evening, after Sophia was in bed, Amelia finally looked. The comments on Eliza's post had shifted. Where before they'd been uniformly supportive, now there were questions. Did you see Amelia's post? Wait, she was giving you $1,500 a month for 8 years. This is more complicated than I thought. Some of Eliza's friends tried to defend her. She's twisting the story. Money doesn't give you the right to abandon family. But others weren't buying it. One comment from a woman Amelia vaguely recognized from church. I remember when Amelia's husband died. You posted about needing money 3 days after the funeral. 3 days. That's in poor taste no matter how you spin it. Another. 8 years of support and you call her selfish? I'd like to see you give $1,500 a month for 8 months, let alone 8 years. Eliza had deleted her original post by 11 p.m., but the internet remembered. Screenshots circulated. People in Briar Hollow talked. The local coffee shop apparently became a hot spot for gossip, according to a message from Catherine, Amelia's friend who still had family in town. Catherine, I heard 3 different conversations about you today. The tide's turning. People are starting to ask questions. Amelia, good. Catherine, are you okay? Like really okay? Amelia stared the question for a long time. Amelia, I'm better than I've been in years. And it was true, because for the first time in her life, Amelia Hale had stopped caring what her family thought, had stopped hoping they'd see her, understand her, appreciate her, had stopped waiting for them to change. She'd changed instead. The next week brought an unusual cold snap. Temperatures dropped below 0, the kind of cold that made car engines reluctant to turn over and power bills spike. Amelia's furnace ran constantly, fighting against the wind that slipped through the old windows Daniel had planned to replace before. She didn't finish the thought. On a Wednesday afternoon, a week after the Facebook incident, someone knocked on her door. Amelia was working from home. She'd taken a part-time remote position doing bookkeeping for a small accounting firm, hours flexible enough to work around Sophia's schedule. She'd been in the middle of reconciling a client's quarterly expenses when the knock came. Through the front window, she saw 4 figures on her porch. Her stomach tightened. Janine, Walt, Eliza, and Connor, all of them bundled in winter coats, standing in a cluster that looked almost nervous. Eliza held something, a white bakery box. Amelia saved her work, closed her laptop, walked to the door, but didn't open it. "We just want to talk." Janine's voice came through the wood, muffled but clear enough. "Please, Amelia, just for a few minutes." Through the window beside the door, Amelia could see her mother's face. She looked older, tired. Her makeup was careful, the way it always was when she left the house, but there were lines around her mouth that Amelia didn't remember from Christmas. "We brought cake," Eliza added. "The chocolate one you used to like. From Mueller's bakery. Remember?" Amelia remembered. Mueller's had been a treat when she was growing up, the kind of place they only went for special occasions. Eliza's birthday. Walt's retirement. Never Amelia's birthday. That was always just a grocery store cake with buttercream frosting that tasted like chemicals. She spoke through the door, not opening it. "What do you want to talk about?" "Can we come in?" Connor asked. "It's freezing out here." "Answer the question." Silence. Then Janine again, her voice thinner than before. "We want to apologize. We want to make this right." "No. Amelia, you don't get to make this right. You don't get to show up with a cake and expect me to forget what you said to my daughter." Movement in the hallway behind her. Sophia had come out of her room, drawn by the voices. She stood at the end of the hall in her unicorn pajamas, eyes wide. Amelia held up a hand. "Stay there." Sophia obeyed. "We were upset," Eliza said. "We said things we didn't mean. You caught us off guard with those papers, and we reacted badly. You told my daughter she was a reminder of things you'd rather forget. I was angry. At a 6-year-old. Silence again. Walt's voice now, gruff and uncomfortable. "We've been thinking. About the money. About everything. We were wrong to expect so much from you. You taught me how to survive being unwanted," Amelia said. Her voice was calm, almost conversational. 25 years of lessons. I paid attention. I used what you taught me. "That's not fair," Janine protested. "Fair." Amelia laughed. Not a happy sound. "When was anything in our family fair? When you paid for Eliza's dance lessons, but told me we couldn't afford art classes. When you grounded me for being 5 minutes late, but let Eliza stay out all night. When you asked me to skip college to help with bills, but co-signed Connor's truck loan the same year." No response. "I learned from you," Amelia continued. "I learned that love is conditional. That family is a transaction. That some people matter and some people don't. And now I'm applying those lessons." Eliza's voice cracked. "Please don't do this. We're family. Family doesn't humiliate children." Through the window, Amelia watched her sister's face crumple, watched her mother's carefully maintained composure start to slip, watched her father shift his weight, uncomfortable with emotion he couldn't escape to his recliner to avoid. Connor said something she couldn't quite hear. "I can't hear you," Amelia said. "I said we need that money." Louder now, defensive. "My shop is closing. We're going to lose everything." "I know. You know." Janine's voice rose. "You know, and you're just going to let it happen. You are going to let my daughter feel unwelcome in your home. On Christmas. So yes, I know, and I'm going to let it happen." This is cruel, Eliza said. This isn't you. You're not a cruel person. Amelia looked at Sophia, still waiting in the hallway. Her daughter's face was frightened but trusting. Whatever was happening, she believed her mother would handle it. You're right, Amelia said, turning back to the door. I'm not cruel. I'm just done. What about Sophia? Janine tried. She needs her grandparents, her family. She needs people who will love her without conditions. You've proven you're not those people. We made one mistake. You've made 1,000 mistakes with me. I won't let you make them with her. Amelia walked away from the door, went to Sophia, knelt down in front of her. Who was that? Sophia whispered. No one important. Are they coming in? No, baby. They're leaving. Through the door, Amelia heard Janine's voice one more time. Please, please, Amelia. We're begging you. But Amelia was already walking Sophia back to her room, already closing that door, already moving forward into a future that didn't include people who'd had 32 years to see her value and had chosen not to. The knock came again, then footsteps on the porch, car doors slamming, an engine starting. Through Sophia's bedroom window, Amelia watched them drive away. The white bakery box sat on her porch, abandoned. Snow would cover it eventually. Sophia climbed into bed, pulled her stuffed elephant close. Are we bad people for not helping? She asked. Amelia sat on the edge of the bed, looked at her daughter, this small, perfect person who deserved so much better than what that family would have given her. No, she said firmly. We are safe. That's all that matters. Even if they're sad, even then. Sophia thought about this, her face serious in the way children get when they're trying to understand adult complexities with child-sized hearts. Okay, she said finally. I trust you. Those words, I trust you, settled into Amelia's chest like an anchor. Not a weight, an anchor, something that held her steady when everything else tried to pull her under. I love you, Amelia said. Love you too. That night, after Sophia fell asleep, Amelia went back downstairs, looked through the window at the bakery box on the porch. The wind had knocked it over. It lay on its side, white cardboard stark against the snow. She opened the door. The cold hit immediately, biting and sharp. Picked up the box, brought it to the kitchen. Inside was chocolate cake with raspberry filling, just like she remembered from childhood. The kind they'd bought for Eliza's Sweet 16. The kind they'd never bought for Amelia's birthday, not once. She took a fork from the drawer, ate a bite, standing over the sink. It tasted like nothing. Months pass the way time passes after trauma. Slowly at first, each day requiring conscious effort to navigate, then faster as new routines took hold and became normal. January turned to February, February to March. Snow melted, revealing dead grass and the detritus winter had buried. The days grew longer. Sophia's 6th birthday came and went, a small party with 3 school friends at a bowling alley. The kind of simple celebration that would have disappointed the child Amelia once was, but delighted the child Sophia was becoming. Daniel's settlement finalized in late March. Amelia's lawyer called on a Tuesday morning. Sophia was at school. Amelia was at the kitchen table, laptop open, working through a client's tax documents. The construction company agreed to the final amount, her lawyer said. Her name was Patricia Gwynn, a woman in her 50s who'd handled Daniel's estate with a combination of professional efficiency and genuine compassion. $2 million. After legal fees and expenses, you're looking at approximately $1.8 million net. The number hung in the air. Amelia had known it would be substantial. Wrongful death claims usually were, especially when negligence was clear. But knowing it intellectually and hearing it said out loud were different things. Amelia. Patricia's voice. You still there? Yes. Sorry. I'm here. I know it's a lot to process. We can set up a meeting to discuss investment strategies, tax implications. I tested them, Amelia said. What? My family. With the first offer, the 500,000. I tested them to see if they'd choose money or me. Patricia was quiet for a moment. And they chose money. They chose themselves, which is the same thing. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm not. And she wasn't. The grief she'd felt at Christmas had burned away, leaving something harder and clearer in its place. Not bitterness. Clarity. The money arrived in her account 3 days later. Amelia sat at her computer and watched the balance update, the number so large it looked fake. She'd never seen that many digits associated with her name before. She paid off her house first. The mortgage had 12 years remaining. One payment and it was gone. The house was hers outright. Then she set up a trust for Sophia. Education, living expenses, a foundation that would carry her through college and beyond. Patricia handled the paperwork, made sure it was airtight, protected from creditors and predators, and anyone who might try to claim a piece of her daughter's future. The rest Amelia invested. Conservative portfolio, diversified holdings, the kind of steady growth that wouldn't make her rich overnight, but would ensure she never had to worry about money again. She kept working at the accounting firm, not because she needed the money, but because structure mattered, purpose mattered. Sophia needed to see her mother as someone who contributed to the world, not someone who sat at home spending dead husband money. In April, Amelia started looking at houses near Saranac Lake, 2 hours north. She'd vacationed there once with Daniel before Sophia was born. They'd stayed in a cabin on the water, spent mornings watching loons dive for fish and evenings sitting on the dock watching sunsets paint the sky impossible colors. I could live here, she'd said that trip. Then let's live here, Daniel had answered. But life had gotten in the way. Jobs, pregnancy, bills, family obligations. They'd never gone back. Now, Amelia scrolled through listings. Lakefront properties, cabins with views, small houses with big windows. Places where Sophia could grow up hearing water instead of traffic. Where mornings smelled like pine and water instead of asphalt and exhaust. She found one in late April. A 2-bedroom cottage on a 1/4 acre. Dock included. Windows facing east to catch the sunrise. The price was reasonable. The housing market upstate hadn't caught the inflation that plagued more desirable locations. She made an offer. The seller accepted. She closed in May. Meanwhile, in Briar Hollow, the Hale family was unraveling. Amelia heard about it through Catherine, whose sister still lived in town and delighted in gossip. Connor's auto shop closed in February. He tried to refinance, tried to find investors, tried everything short of admitting he'd run the business into the ground through poor management and poor impulse control. The bank foreclosed. The building went up for auction. Connor took a job at a dealership in Burlington, an hour commute each way, making a fraction of what he'd hoped to make as his own boss. Eliza and Connor fought constantly. Their neighbors heard screaming matches through the walls. Connor moved out in March, moved back in April, moved out again in May. Janine and Walt struggled too. Without Amelia's $1,500 a month, the numbers didn't add up. Property taxes went unpaid. The furnace that needed replacing stayed broken. Walt's medications got rationed because they couldn't afford full doses. They tried calling. Amelia blocked the numbers. They tried email. Amelia set up filters. Everything from their addresses went straight to a folder she never opened. Janine sent a letter in April. Handwritten, 3 pages long. Amelia recognized the handwriting on the envelope. She held it for a long moment, feeling the weight of paper and ink and whatever plea or accusation waited inside. Then she burned it, not out of anger, not even out of spite, just because some doors, once closed, didn't need to be reopened. The ashes went down the kitchen sink. She ran the water until every trace disappeared. In June, Amelia and Sophia moved to Saranac Lake. The town was smaller than Plattsburgh, quieter, the kind of place where people knew your name but didn't feel entitled to your story. Their new house sat on a dead-end road with 3 other cottages, all occupied by retirees and summer people who left in fall. Sophia loved it immediately. The lake was clean enough to swim in, cold but swimmable by July. The dock had a ladder. Mornings, they'd walk down together with coffee for Amelia and hot chocolate for Sophia, watching the mist rise off the water as the sun cleared the trees. Amelia enrolled Sophia in the local elementary school. Small class sizes, good teachers, a playground with a view of the mountains. On her first day, Sophia came home talking about a new friend named Emma who liked unicorns and knew all the lyrics to Let It Go. "Can Emma come over?" Sophia asked. "Of course." "Can she stay for dinner?" "If her parents say yes." Sophia grinned, gap-toothed and glowing. She'd lost her first tooth in May, put it under her pillow, woke up to find $2 and a note from the tooth fairy written in Amelia's careful, disguised handwriting. This was what 6-year-olds were supposed to worry about: playdates and tooth fairies, and whether they'd get chocolate chip or oatmeal cookies after school. Not whether Grandma loved them. Not whether they'd done something wrong to deserve rejection. Amelia watched her daughter run to her room to call Emma's mom and felt something loosen in her chest. Not forgiveness. She hadn't forgiven the Hales, wouldn't forgive them, didn't need to forgive them. Just peace. The letter arrived in September. Amelia found it in the mailbox when she went out to get the grocery store circulars. Hand-addressed, Vermont postmark, Janine's handwriting again. Her first instinct was to burn it unread like the last one, but something made her open it instead. 1 page this time, not 3. "Dear Amelia, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I have no right to ask anything from you, but I'm asking anyway. Your father's heart is failing. The doctors say he needs surgery he can't afford. Without it, he has maybe 6 months. I'm not asking for money. I know that bridge is burned. I'm asking you to forgive us, to let Sophia know her grandparents before it's too late. We made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but we're still family. Please, Mom." Amelia read it twice. Then she folded it carefully, slid it back into the envelope, and put it in the kitchen drawer where she kept important documents. Not because she planned to respond. Because 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 10 years from now, if Sophia ever asked why she didn't have grandparents, Amelia wanted to be able to show her daughter exactly who those people were. People who showed up with apologies only when they needed something. People who called themselves family but treated love like a transaction. People who'd had 32 years to see Amelia as a person and had chosen not to. Who'd had 6 months to see Sophia as a person and had chosen not to. Who'd made choices over and over again and were now facing the consequences of those choices and wanted someone else to save them. Amelia didn't respond to the letter. She took Sophia to school, picked her up, helped with homework, made dinner, read bedtime stories. They went kayaking on the lake, picking late summer blackberries from bushes that grew wild along the shore. They visited the local library, joining a summer reading program that awarded stickers for every book finished. Life continued. Simple, quiet, peaceful. In October, Catherine called. "Your dad died," she said without preamble. Catherine had never been one to soften bad news. "I heard from my sister. Heart attack. Quick, apparently." Amelia stood in her kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, looking out the window at the lake. The trees were turning, reds and golds and oranges painting the shoreline like fire. "Okay," she said. "You okay?" "Yeah. They're having a service, Saturday, at the Methodist church. I can come with you if—" "I'm not going." Catherine was quiet for a moment. "You sure?" "Completely. Amelia, he had 32 years to be my father. He wasn't. I don't owe him my grief now. It might be good for you. Closure. I don't need closure. I closed that door myself." After they hung up, Amelia sat at the kitchen table. Sophia was at school. The house was quiet except for the furnace kicking on and the lake lapping at the dock outside. She waited for feelings to come. Sadness. Regret. Something. Nothing came. Walt Hale had been a silent presence in her life, a man who chose comfort over confrontation, television over conversation, absence over engagement. He'd never been cruel, but he'd never been kind either. He'd simply been there, taking up space, letting his wife dictate the family dynamics without objection or intervention. And now he wasn't there, and Amelia felt nothing. She got up, made tea, returned to work. Sophia came home from school, talking about a science project on weather patterns. They spent the evening cutting pictures from magazines, gluing them to poster board, labeling types of clouds. Amelia didn't tell her daughter her grandfather had died. There was time for that conversation later, when Sophia was old enough to understand the nuance. For now, she protected her daughter from grief that didn't belong to her. That weekend, while Walt Hale's funeral happened in Briar Hollow, Amelia took Sophia apple picking at an orchard 20 minutes from their house. They climbed ladders, filled bags with Honeycrisps and Macoons, drank hot cider, and ate cider donuts that left sugar on their fingers. Sophia laughed, her voice carrying across the orchard. Other families smiled at them, the young mother and her daughter, both bundled in sweaters, both happy. They went home and made applesauce. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and autumn. Sophia stood on a stool at the stove, carefully stirring the pot while Amelia supervised. "This is fun," Sophia said. "It is," Amelia agreed. "I'm glad we live here." "Me too, baby. I don't miss our old house." "No." Sophia shook her head. "That house was sad. This house is happy." Children understood things adults tried to complicate. That house had been sad, filled with memories of Daniel, haunted by the proximity to family that had never felt like family. This house was happy because it belonged to them alone, because no one here wanted anything from them except to be good neighbors, because the only expectations were the ones they set for themselves. In November, a final letter arrived. Not from Janine this time. From a law office in Briar Hollow. Amelia opened it warily. Walt's will. He'd left her $20,000. The letter from the lawyer explained that the will had been written 15 years ago, back when Amelia and Daniel were newly married and her parents had still believed she might be useful someday. It had never been updated. The money would be available after probate. Amelia called Patricia Gwynn. "Can I refuse an inheritance?" "You can disclaim it, yes." The money would pass to the alternate beneficiary listed in the will. "Who's that?" "Let me check. Looks like it would revert to the estate and be divided among remaining beneficiaries. So your mother and sister." "Do it. Disclaim it." "Are you sure?" 20,000 is. "I'm sure." Patricia drafted the paperwork. Amelia signed it, notarized it, sent it back. 2 weeks later, Catherine called again. "Did you really turn down the inheritance?" "How did you?" "Small town. My sister knows the paralegal at the law office." "Amelia, that was $20,000. I didn't want it." "Your mom's devastated. She thought, I don't know what she thought, that you'd take the money and that would open the door or something. The door's closed. She's alone now. Walt's gone. Eliza's barely speaking to her. Connor left Eliza. And that's my problem, how?" Catherine sighed. "It's not. I just thought you should know." "Now I know." After she hung up, Amelia sat with her tea and watched the lake. November in the Adirondacks was gray and cold, the kind of weather that settled into your bones. The trees were bare now, skeletal against the sky. Ice was forming along the edges of the shore, creeping further each day as winter approached. Janine was alone. Good. Amelia had been alone for 32 years, surrounded by family who barely saw her. Now Janine could learn what that felt like. December came. The first snowfall dusted the ground on the second Tuesday of the month. Sophia pressed her face to the window, watching the flakes fall. "Can we make a snowman?" "After school," Amelia promised. They did. That afternoon they rolled snow into balls, stacked them, found stones for eyes and a carrot for a nose. The snowman stood at the edge of the dock, facing the frozen lake. He's guarding our house, Sophia declared. From what? From mean people. Amelia knelt beside her daughter. What mean people? Sophia shrugged. Just in case. At 6 years old, she'd already learned the world could hurt you. Already developed defenses. Amelia hated that. Hated that her daughter had to think about mean people at all. But better to be prepared than naive. Better to build snowman guards than expect the world to be kind without verification. Christmas approached. Amelia and Sophia decorated their tree. A small spruce Amelia had cut herself from the property, dragging it inside with Sophia supervising. They strung popcorn and cranberries, hung ornaments Amelia had collected over the years. No store-bought matching decorations. No perfect bows. Just mismatched ornaments that meant something. Daniel's first Christmas ornament from when they'd started dating. Sophia's handprint in plaster from preschool. A wooden cardinal Amelia's grandmother had given her before she died. Real things. Meaningful things. On Christmas Eve, they made pancakes for dinner and watched old cartoons. Sophia fell asleep on the couch, clutching her stuffed elephant. Amelia carried her to bed, tucked her in, kissed her forehead. Then she went to the kitchen and made hot chocolate, stood at the window, looking out at the frozen lake under the stars. A year ago, she'd driven through snow with a crying child in the back seat, her family's rejection still fresh and raw. Now she stood in her own house, debt-free, future secure, daughter safe and happy. She'd chosen this, chosen to walk away, chosen to protect Sophia, chosen herself for the first time in her life. And it had cost her nothing she actually valued. Christmas morning, Sophia woke early and ran to the tree. Amelia had bought modest gifts. Art supplies, books, a new winter coat that fit properly. Nothing extravagant. Nothing that would teach her daughter that love came in expensive packages. Sophia opened each one slowly, savoring. These are perfect, Mama. You really think so? Yeah. She held up a set of watercolors. Can we paint later? Of course. They spent the afternoon at the kitchen table. Sophia painted the lake, the dock, the snowman guard. Amelia painted beside her. The two of them working in comfortable silence, broken only by requests for different colors or approval of techniques. Outside, snow began falling again. The lake was quiet. The house was warm. And somewhere in a town Amelia would never return to, a house on Juniper Ridge stood with empty rooms and a table that would never be full again. Janine celebrated Christmas alone that year. Eliza came for an hour, stayed out of obligation. Left as soon as it was polite. They didn't speak of Amelia, didn't acknowledge the absence, but it hung over everything like smoke. At the dinner table where Amelia had once sat and tried to be enough, there was now just empty space. The turkey was smaller this year. The sides were simpler. The conversation was forced. And in the middle of the table, where torn papers had once scattered like leaves, there was nothing at all. Because the best revenge was not what Amelia had taken from them. It was what she'd built without them. A life that was hers. A daughter who was loved without conditions. A future that belonged to no one but herself. She'd never forgiven them. She'd never looked back. And she'd never had to. Because some doors once closed stayed closed. And that was exactly as it should be.